All right, so what's the power of Islam? And I want you guys to remember this. Islam is, the power and beauty comes from how Islam is able to unite two major intellectual traditions in the world. The first is paganism, right? Remember the Vikings? The Vikings told stories, they acted out rituals. And therefore, there was an intimacy, concreteness, and interconnectedness to paganism that made us feel happy and good. Okay? It made us understand the world. It made us feel as though we could influence the world. That's the power of paganism. But Islam is doing the same thing by making God concrete. Okay? You can feel God. God is everywhere. He knows everything. But what Islam is also doing is he's seeking the simplicity, clarity, and absoluteness of monotheism. Okay? Monotheism is nice because with monotheism, everything becomes clear to you. Right? Okay, there's one God, therefore I just have to follow him. I just have to believe in him. There's like a million gods in paganism. And so it's unclear what you should do or how you should relate to this million gods. But here in monotheism, the relationship between God and you, it's very, very clear. Okay? Is a major intellectual revolution in human history. Three original questions. First question is, why did Islam enter its golden age and Christian Europe enter its dark age? Second question is, why did the Islamic golden age end? Third question is, how did Christian Europe overtake the Muslim world? Okay, to answer these three questions, all we have to do is compare and contrast these three major religions together. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So, Judaism. The Bible, it's a wonderful piece of literature. It has a very rich history going back 1,000 years, right? So the Jews were expected to be people of the book. They were expected to be literate in order to practice their religion, okay? And this helps us understand why Jews are so dominant in academia, universities, in the media and in culture, and in the legal profession, okay? Because these are people of the book. They have a tremendous respect for learning and for literacy, okay? That said, there are certain problems with the tradition. The first is it's contradictory. When you read the Bible, it's always contradicting itself, okay? It's almost schizophrenic, you could say. It's very hard to pick out a definite message from the Bible. And that's why the oral tradition, called the Torah, is actually much more important. Okay? And so Jews have to go to the synagogue all the time where the rabbi will explain to them the meaning of the Bible. Because if you read it by yourself, it's almost impossible to understand. Okay? Second problem is their God, Yahweh, he's very problematic. He's extremely problematic. As we know from last semester when we looked at the Bible, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing. And he's very, very violent, okay? He often commands the Israelites to go kill all their enemies. Okay, so he's a very problematic God. And the third major problem in the tradition is faith versus history. If you believe that you're the chosen people, if you believe that Yahweh is the only true God, then why are you being persecuted all the time, okay? Why were the Romans able to kick you out of Jerusalem and burn down your temple, which is the house of God? Why are you homeless? Why do you lack a homeland, okay? And this has been going on for 1,000 years. And there are no easy explanation to any of these problems. Okay? So within the Jewish faith, there's a lot of conflict and debate and doubt. So the Christian faith was created in many ways to try to resolve a lot of the issues within the Jewish tradition. The first major advantage of the Christian faith is it's the personification and perfection of divinity, right? Remember how we said that Yahweh is problematic? Well, now we have Jesus, who we can understand. And Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice, therefore we know him to be the ultimate good. Okay? Second advantage is, okay, now that there's a person, we can, through him, deliver a consistent message of being kind, being merciful, being loving. Okay? The third advantage is the idea of progress of history. Everything is leading to the return of Jesus, the second coming. Okay? So you may suffer now, but don't worry because Jesus is returning. And that will end history for us. All right? So these are the advantages of Christianity. It's a really confusing story. Why would God come down to earth, manifest himself as a human, and then sacrifice himself? That's really, really confusing. Like, I know there's a lot of really good explanations as to why this is the case. Still, if you're just a normal person, you can't understand the story. It makes no sense to you, okay? Second is that it's counterintuitive. A lot of the ideas in Christianity, it's just counterintuitive. The Holy Trinity must be the strangest idea in religion, where God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus are separate but equal. It makes no intuitive sense to anyone. And the third is distant divinity. Okay? God is out there somewhere. You don't know where. You can't talk to him. You can't see him. You have no idea where he is. Okay? It's a very distant divinity. Christianity. And so Islam now makes sense because it's trying to remedy and rectify these failings of Christianity. Okay? The first is that it takes the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition and makes it part of itself. Okay? So it is really the continuation and the perfection of the Jewish-Christian tradition. Second is the absoluteness of God. Okay? This is now true monotheism where God is everywhere and you can see him. But if God is everywhere, then what's amazing is that you can now, that God can come inside you through your faith, through your devotion, and for your practice. All right? And so what this means is you now know how to behave in the world. There's a clarity of purpose and action. You know that as long as you do those 5 things, those 5 pillars of Islam, your life will be good. God is in you. And that gives you strength and purpose and power. Okay? And these ideas is what will start the Islamic golden age and allow Islam to propel itself past everyone. Okay? The problem, though, is it's too simple and clear. The second problem, then, is it's inflexible. It can't be as innovative as Christianity and Judaism. And the third problem is Islam purports to stand outside of history. Okay? Judaism is to be inside of history. Christianity is inside of history as well. But Islam is eternal. When you read the Quran, it's meant to be the eternal words. These words are always true. But then the problem then is how do you go about and interpret your actions through the lens of history? And how do you improve your society based on this interpretation? All right? So in the beginning, the very aspects, the very strengths of Islam will give rise to a tremendous period of creativity. But over time, you will have these innovations will become dogma, and they will ossify, and they will prevent further growth in your society. All right? So does that make sense to you guys? All right. So let me reframe. Let's look at Christianity and compare it with Islam. All right? So as I have said in previous classes, Christianity was developed by the Roman Empire in order to co-opt first the Jews and eventually these barbarian invaders. And therefore, the religion is one of empire and power. Okay? It's really about how to control people. But Islam, as I just mentioned, it is a revolutionary religion that must be open and inclusive and tolerant in order to attract as many followers as possible. All right? Now, the main mechanism of control for an empire is the idea of orthodoxy. Orthodoxy just means the correct thinking, okay? But if you're orthodoxy, then you have the idea of heresy. Orthodoxy is with God, heresy is against God. If you agree that the sky is red, because I say the sky is red, then you are orthodox. But if you insist the sky is blue, then it is heretical, okay? And that constrains or limits the imagination. All right? And the philosopher that you base your society on is Plato. So the idea of the bishop, the idea of the pope, it's really the idea of Plato's philosopher king. All right? So I'll explain Plato's philosophy in a second, okay? But let's look at Islam. So it's a revolutionary religion, and therefore you must activate the energy of all your followers. You must get them to believe, and you must get them to fight. Therefore, it's a religion based on intuition. God is with you. You know God. God is inside you, okay? And the idea of intuition is what allows for science. You can discover the truth by just observing, through empirical observation, through your own analysis, through your own belief, okay? And the person who argues this is, of course, Aristotle. So this is the argument I'm making to you, okay? A lot of scholars believe the Islamic Golden Age happened because the Islams had books. They had wealth. But please remember that it's the Islamic Golden Age which will inspire the Europeans to do all three of these things, which in turn will create the modern world that we live in today. Okay? And that's why I believe that the Islamic Golden Age is really the proto-modernity of human history. All right, that is my argument to you.